Monday Night Rugby on Off the Ball
with Eir Sport. Watch every Munster and Leinster game only on the Eir Sport pack. Visit eirsport.ie.
So we have Rory O'Connor of the Irish Independent here in studio. Eddie O'Sullivan is on the line. Week 2 results, if you didn't get them all in full. Italy, and we said they would need to do so really for their own well-being, beat Georgia 28 points to 17. Scotland put 54 points on Fiji to Fiji's 17. Ireland then beat Argentina 28-17, a record 10th straight home win for Ireland. Match of the day, probably England 15, New Zealand 16. Wales beat Australia 9-6, and then France 26, South Africa 29 was the story in Paris. Late drama there, South Africa this time as opposed to the week before in Twickenham coming out on top. So we will start with Rory. Eddie O'Sullivan with us in just a second. And actually it's perfect to start with you. So Steve Hansen yesterday, the All Blacks arrived, and Hansen had his press conference and pretty much unprompted out the gate maybe tried to shape the narrative of the whole week, and brought up Conor Murray straight away and said, well, look, he'll play. And honestly, you know, I'm not trying to start anything, but if it was one of my guys, they'd probably play. Yeah. And the IRFU have put a bullet in that early doors, which is probably the way to make this week more straightforward.
Definitely. Steve Hansen enjoys this side of things. He's very relaxed around the media. He was supposed to do an 11 o'clock briefing in London with the English media and the travelling media, and they switched it to 6 o'clock in Dublin in their team hotel in Blanchardstown, which I think, while it was probably to do a bit with travel, it was also to do with the fact that they wanted to move on. They didn't want to talk about that penalty. They didn't want to talk about the disallowed try, all that stuff. They wanted to talk about Ireland. And he came in, and as you say, he kind of bit of injury news, and then he threw in the Conor Murray line, and he was happy to follow up on it. And he was less happy to talk about kind of tactics and things like that, but he was very relaxed. He was, you know, he bigged it up. 1v2 in the world, winner takes it all. Regardless of the rankings, the winner is the best team in the world.
He's not afraid to big things up, actually, because last week he was saying the England game was bigger than the Lions test.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from this stuff, and I think because he's in such a position of comfort, because he's a World Cup winning coach who's probably leaving at the end of this World Cup cycle with his reputation pretty much intact no matter what happens. He enjoys it. He talked before the World Cup final about how he enjoys this side of the game. He's very thoughtful. He doesn't rush into answers. He sits back, he considers them, but he's not afraid to be a bit lighthearted. He has a joke. He's back and forth. It's a big contrast with Joe Schmidt, who's a much more kind of tense figure in press conferences, who thinks about this thing, takes it very seriously.
I have to say, I did half wonder when I saw the IRFU come out today on Murray and Henshaw. We're not necessarily used to seeing the IRFU coming out early doors on injury situations. I mean, these things can bleed into later on in the week. I mean, I'm sure within the camp they know, but outside we don't necessarily know. So you kind of think
but it's kind of 1-0 Hansen a little bit, but also it's just, why don't you do this more? It was like, we got clarity. Now we know that it's either Kieran Marmion or Luke McGrath. Yeah. We get, you back one of them. He's in training all week. He's there on Monday. He's there on Tuesday. He's running the ship. Depends on whether Marmion's fit to do it. But no, it's an interesting start. But it shows the benefit of him doing a press conference on a Sunday and setting the agenda for the week. People wonder why we care about this stuff, but they see value in it. He sees value in getting his message out early, setting the agenda as much as he can, and he got a response from the RFU. And it's now he knows Conor Murray's not there unless he appears on Thursday as a surprise guest, but I think we're beyond that point now.
Yeah. Eddie, does that strike you as a more straightforward way to do things? Eddie, you there?
Yeah, I'm there, yeah.
Sorry, can you hear us, Eddie? Yeah?
I can, yeah.
We were just talking, the RFU have come out early doors really this week, probably in response to Hansen, and said that certainly Murray won't play and Henshaw won't play either. Does strike us as a more straightforward way to do things?
Sorry, Joe, just start again there. I wasn't quite with you.
Sorry, so we were just talking here about the IRFU have come out maybe on the back of Hansen's comments last night where he brought up Murray unprompted. The IRFU have come out and said straight off the bat, Murray's not going to play, Henshaw's not going to play. Strikes us as a much cleaner way to do things, more straightforward all round, to have that clarity for everybody rather than this thing rumble on all week.
Absolutely, because, what it does is it doesn't, I suppose, show stability around the camp if this is kind of over and back as to whether he's playing or he's not playing. I think Hansen might have put it out there just to see how Ireland will react, and maybe got the reaction he wants. He knows now that Murray isn't playing. As regards Henshaw, I don't think he was ever going to play, but it would be the first time that we've kind of had to wait till the 11th hour to find out, because we had video of him just jumping a little bit when he twinged a hammer on Saturday, and that's definitely not a 6-day turnaround. So there's no surprise, but I'm glad they've done it, because it just sucks up a lot of oxygen about something that's not, that's not really relevant. They've got to get on with it now, and it's probably better for everybody to know at this stage this is the way the land lies, and just get prepared for the All Blacks.
So Marmion and McGrath scored a try each on Saturday. Compare their performances beyond that.
I think Marmion probably played his way in, you know. I mean, he was unlucky to get the ankle injury. I think there was a lot of pressure on him, but I think he did a good job. I would see him holding off McGrath, but I think Joe Schmidt seems to be in favour of Marmion anyway, so I would say Marmion will get the start. I'd be surprised if McGrath gets it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought McGrath came on and Sean, I thought he was very, very good. Now Ireland were better in the second half, which always makes life better for a scrum half. But I thought Sexton looked a bit frustrated with Marmion at times in the first half. Maybe the decision making, the supply of ball wasn't as quick as he wanted. But then Marmion's dealing with a bit of dirty ball. Argentina were very good in that regard on Saturday. I think he probably doesn't change this week because he's already going to have to change 4 maybe. And a fifth is a third. Sorry, a fifth player is a third of your team, and that's a lot of change. When you probably had a predetermined, that you didn't want to change too much this week. So I think Marmion's been backed, but I think long term McGrath did himself a lot of favours on Saturday. But if Marmion's able to train tomorrow, which is always the big one for Joe, if that ankle isn't too serious, he's kind of backed them so far. He's played the big games. I mean, neither of them have really faced an opposition like this. Yeah. And it's where the worry will be is their experience. But Marmion has a little bit more than McGrath.
Injury has probably settled the two other debates around the centre partnership in the back row. So Henshaw's pulled out and is out. So it's Aki and Ringrose. It's funny, I mean, we've talked all year, for a year now, about the best partnership being Ringrose and Henshaw, and yet the only one who's been fit every time and ready to go every time is Bundy Aki. So once again, he has a new partner. And then I presume Dan Levy is in for Sean O'Brien based on his second half performance, Rory.
Joe Schmidt did throw in a very complimentary line about Josh van der Fleer on Saturday about how well he played 2 years ago against the All Blacks. But I think that may have been just to keep Dan Levy's feet in the ground, because Dan Levy would have walked off that pitch fully convinced he was starting, and I don't think he can look at his performance on Saturday and ignore it. It was just outstanding, and he is an outstanding player, and himself and James Ryan in tandem is something that Ireland can really build a game plan around.
They played together at schools, didn't they?
Levy was a bit older. There's a picture going around the internet today of them, Levy sitting on one side of a cup, and he captained St Michael's to the senior cup, and James Ryan captained St Michael's to the junior cup that year. So they may have crossed paths if Ryan played up, but I don't think they did an awful lot. But they went to the same school, they're cut from the same cloth, and they really, really enjoy playing together. You can see it. They combine really well. They have this little kind of salute thing they do at the end of games, which it wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, but it's clear they have a bond and they have a connection on the pitch that we've seen more with Leinster than Ireland. But if they can bring that to the Ireland team, they're so physical, they're so relentless with their carrying, they're so energetic. Like Levy's stats are off the charts, and he just brings so much to the table. And it was just a reminder on Saturday of how good he is, because he's come back after a big, reasonably long layoff with just one game against the Kings, really to kind of see where he was, and he came off. He changed the game a bit on Saturday, and Ireland scrum aside, he was probably the difference.
Yeah, okay. We are here with Eir Sport, the home of rugby in Ireland. Eddie, when you were on air a couple of weeks ago around the Italy match, you had Devon Toner as almost first name on your team sheet. I think we've all come round to that way of thinking suddenly. The line-out situation, and it was targeted by Argentina. They had a third lock in the back row, and they really did a bit of a number on the Irish line-out. And suddenly, when you look at Retallick and Whitelock and what they did in Twickenham, Devon Toner suddenly is now everyone's first name on the team sheet.
Well, yeah, I think as well the fact that the quality of the ball we were getting, we went to the tail a few times in the first half, and we had no joy. We were cut off every time. So that they'd done their homework, and putting Petty at open side paid dividends. The other problem was that as well as not being able to go to the tail, then we had to take ball off the front too. That we did get the banker balls, and they're very hard to launch midfield strikes off those, because the source of the position is so far away from the midfield. You can launch a lot of defenders off the tail of the line out. So it really shut us down, and I thought you saw the problems of that in the first half. So we weren't really getting any momentum in our game. We weren't getting any flow to our game because we didn't have that kind of crisp play of ball. And then when Toner came on the second half, we went to him a couple of times and he just won the ball comfortably. There was no one getting near him. And ironically, the probably most important line at the end of the day was the one we stole. The only line out that we stole all day off Argentina was their 5 metre line out. And because Toner was down the line, they were afraid to throw the ball down to him, and they threw where O'Mahony was at the front, and O'Mahony pushed it, but interestingly it was Toner lifted him, so O'Mahony got way above where he normally gets. And from that line out we ended up with the scrum under the sticks where Luke McGrath scored and killed the game. So I think Joe Schmidt has always used Toner in crunch games to make sure the line-out functions. He calls the line-out as well. He knows the lie of the land, and I'll be amazed if he doesn't start on the weekend, because if our lineup wobbles on the weekend, there'll be a huge price to pay. And I'd be very confident with Turner playing the lineup, it'll be fine. It's never been wobbly with a minute. So I think he's almost certainly on the team sheet. He has to be on that basis.
Yeah, and not to disparage the win in Chicago whatsoever, Rory, but you compare the second row that day of Tui Peluto and Jerome Kano filling in for what we saw at the weekend in Whitelock and Retallick. Like, you wonder what Whitelock and Retallick would do to that pair. That day for Ireland, it was Donnacha Ryan alongside Devon Toner. But I mean, that's a completely different proposition to 2016 that Ireland are facing this Saturday.
And 2 weeks later, the two boys came back and they did a number. So, you know, we saw with England on Saturday, New Zealand did a number in the second half. Jamie George is going to have nightmares with that game for years. He came on at half time for Dylan Hartley, thinking this was his era. That, you know, look, Stuart Barnes was all about this is the end of Dylan Hartley's captaincy. And he comes on and Brodie Retallick ruined them, like absolutely ruined them. And what they did was they brought on Scott Barrett after 52 minutes and went the same way Argentina went with a second row in the back row. Yeah. And they went up, they put as many of them up as they could. They got up quickly and they put pressure on. And that's, you know, Hansen, I asked that Hansen last night, did Petty's role in the back row give you food for thought? And he gave a very short answer, but he finished it with, yeah, no, it did. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves Liam Squire out of the team and puts Scott Barrett in, because O'Mahony's such a threat at line-out as well on their own ball, as Eddie's just outlined, which, you know, that I think the line-out is where this game is going to be won and lost. I think the scrum will have parity because every time they've played each other, even the lines with Furlong and McGrath being involved as well was very, very close. New Zealand probably at the edge, but that's going to break even, and I think the line-out is where it's won. And Hansen said yesterday, he was asked, was Murray the difference between the teams in Chicago? He said, no, that was all about the tie five. Yeah. That game was won in the tie five, and Johnny Sexton today said most games are. So that's going to be the supply of ball to Ireland. Line-out's so important. It's basically that flow of possession they get out of touch is so important to their attacking game that if New Zealand can do a job on them, they're in trouble, and that's where the pressure is going to come down on Rory Best, and having Toner there alleviates that pressure. How much pressure is Rory Best under? I think he's under big pressure this week. I think his performance against Racing 92 a couple of weeks ago with Ulster, with Ian Henderson calling the line-out, was pretty poor out of touch. Yeah. On Saturday, he was poor out of touch again with Henderson calling the line-out, but he also didn't offer a huge amount around the park. He looked quite sluggish. His numbers were very low in terms of his contributions, even in terms of rucks, which we don't get stats on. He just didn't seem to be as involved, you know, as we've become used to. He's had a terrible year of injury with hamstring injury, which is a problem that any player, like Rob Kearney talked about not being able to trust his hamstrings and run out full blast. Well, if you're a player who bases his game around power and rucks, you rely on your hamstrings an awful lot. He's not playing particularly well. He's in a pivotal position, and he's up against one of the two of the best hookers in the world this week, in Dane Coles or Cody Taylor. Like, they've got such dynamism, passing ranges there, that's complete packages. And then he's got Scannell, Herring and Cronin, who Scannell and Herring were brilliant on the summer tour. Cronin came off the bench on Saturday and was excellent and has been having a great season. And if it's Toner and Ryan, they're his club jumpers. I don't think he's at risk this week. I think he will captain the team, but I think if things don't go well this week, Joe Schmidt's got a major decision to make over the course of the winter on whether he's his captain for a World Cup, because, you know, you don't want to be ageist, but he is 36, turning 37 before the World Cup. Yeah. He's in that winter of his career, and you wonder whether he's able to do what he used to be able to do as well as he did. He's done 3 World Cups. It'd be an amazing achievement to get to a 4th, but at this point, I think it's in the balance for him a little bit. Yeah, you probably don't want to make that cut on the eve of a World Cup, so Six Nations may come into focus. On the line-out situation, Eddie, so Ireland got their 3 tries on Saturday off scrum. And I was reading over the weekend, certainly when the Australians did their analysis in Ireland back in June, they concluded fairly quickly that Ireland were about the best attack off line-out in the world, and so they made a point of not kicking into touch. So when the Irish line-out malfunctions, as it did a little bit at the weekend, do you really see what we're left with from an attacking point of view? And look, it was a disjointed performance generally, but not a huge amount was left on the evidence of the weekend. No, and I think teams that will probably try, knowing that we do very well with good line-up possession, it's very hard to shut us down once we get the front foot. They would target, you know, a source, and you saw the problems we had on the weekend. And to be fair to Rory Best, I think it was not the throwing was his problem. I think I agree with Rory, just around the field he didn't have really any impact at all, but if you look at the lineups we lost, he was trying to throw over Petty, which he had no chance in doing. Like, they were just bad calls and bad setups. But apart from that, yeah, I think our line-out is crucial. I think that, look, it'll be under as much pressure as ever going to be under with this New Zealand team. And there's also a chance that, I don't know, maybe if Toner isn't picked,
or even then, if Steve Hansen fancies it, he might put that Barge into the back row, put even more pressure on our line-out, you know. Now, there'd be a trade-off there with if he was to do it with Artie Survey, I think, but it worked for Argentina, but it'd be interesting to see where he goes with that. I suppose if Toner is on the field, it's probably a waste to put Barrett in there, because you're losing a Survey around the field. But I think it's something you'd look at it if Toner wasn't starting, you know, to put even more pressure on the line-up, because if you could cut us off that source, then lots of things are hard for us to get out of the blocks. And we are very good at the line-out, and we're very good at using the line-out ball, the quality of the ball. We mix it up very well. We have a very good maul. We've got some nice little wrinkles around the tail, and we've also got some good strike plays. So, yeah, it's very important to us. And there's a lot more line-outs and scrums as well. You know, you get a lot more opportunities. So I think that's going to be a crucial one for Sarah. But if Devin Toner's picked, I wouldn't sweat going into it. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, okay. And just in general terms about the Irish attack, if you separate lineouts for a second, and hopefully for the next while lineouts work well, and then a lot of Ireland's good attacking play comes from those lineouts. But if you take that away for a second, then you throw in things like turnover attack or counter-attacking. I don't think there was a big Irish line break all evening on Saturday. Now, it's just one game, and there were various circumstances at play in terms of preparation. But are there areas where Ireland could really, really improve, you think, make big gains in terms of how we attack?
Yeah, I think our transition game, like when the ball is kicked to us, I think we could do better in terms of holding onto the ball and building pressure. We tend at times to basically, kick long again and chase it back. We don't take too many risks in that area. We tend not to play much in our half, except that, ironically, the first 2 minutes of the game against Argentina, we played 8 phases across in our own half before we got turned over. So I can't imagine we'll be trying that again. But I think the other area is the scrum. The scrum is a really, really good place to attack from. And we have a very good scrum. So I'd like to see us being a bit more innovative off the scrum. We tend to just use the scrum as a starter play by trucking up one of the centres. We've seen Bundyaki or Robbie Henshaw just truck it up and try and get a bit of momentum. But I think that we have good enough backline to start picking teams apart. You saw the damage that Argentina did to us at a scrum on the one scrum they got right on Saturday. And it's the easiest one to attack off. Now, a lot of the time, scrums attacks get cancelled because the scrum wheels or the quality of the ball isn't up to it. But we have a very good scrum. So you would be expecting us to at least deliver some quality attacking ball in the scrum. And it's much harder to defend because the flankers are locked into the scrum, whereas at line-out they can always jump out the tail and plug in. So yeah, I think the scrum is an area I'd like to see, being maybe a bit more creative with the ball, and actually trying to open up teams from first phase, like we tend to do from lineouts. I don't see how we don't try and do the same from scrums.
There's Heineken Star comments coming in. I'll get them to the lads in just a second. The performance itself on Saturday, so I mean there are extenuating circumstances. Nobody was very impressed, but you have to throw in fairly messy preparation between Chicago and this New Zealand game looming so large, and then Argentina have been playing all year. They're basically club side at this stage, and they had 2 weeks off in preparation. Joe Schmidt was saying he was talking to Ledesma, and Ledesma was making that point that we had perfect preparation, and Ireland did win. They won by 11 points in the end. There's a reason they won. So, I mean, is Saturday kind of grimming you out, or are you okay with what you saw?
No, I think it was along expected lines. I always thought the spread looked very big. I thought Ireland's scrum would get there. I thought, take the scrum away, which it's very hard to do. It's such a big area of the game. You can't take it. But Ireland weren't better than Argentina across the board, but their scrum was so much better that they were able to score 3 tries and win the game based on it. So it's a very difficult game to analyse because all the other constituent parts of their game kind of struggled, but they had such advantage in one area that's so important in it, to the flow of the game, that they were able to be completely dominant and build up that score that allowed them to win by 11 points. I would love to have seen what would have happened if Argentina had brought a scrum. I've been able to pick the players that have either injured or not allowed to play. Because I'm not sure Ireland would have got out of that game with a win because they didn't play well enough. And I think they have an eye on this week. I think they always did. I think they've been probably preparing for it behind the scenes much more than they've given away. Argentina was a job to get done. It's their 10th home win in a row, which is no Irish team has ever done that. Definitely worth mentioning. It's a testament of what Joe Schmidt and this team have done and the standards that they set, that they can beat Argentina by 11 points, and we're critical. But that's the level they're at now. They're the second best team in the world. They should be beating that Argentina team by more. But if that was the last game of the window and there was no All Blacks on the horizon, I think they would have. I think if they'd been preparing for that one, if that was a World Cup quarter-final, I think they beat that Argentina team this time.
I know. I was walking out and bumped into some people. What did you think of that? Terrible. What did you think? Yeah, terrible. You know, and you almost have to say, well, hang on here a little second. Even the atmosphere in the crowd.
Yeah,
like it was just
before. I don't know what before the Lord Mayor show is, but you know, it's this month is all about one thing, and that was just one to get out of the way. And they did it. They got the job done. They found out a bit about Jordan Larmour. They found out a bit about different players. You know, Marmion got 60 odd minutes at nine against a Tier 1 team. It was an exercise, job done. But really, this whole month is about one thing. Yeah, no, it certainly feels that way. Eddie, where are you in the performance then? I mean, like, it's certain things, like even Johnny Sexton having a very strange day kicking was part of the tapestry of that afternoon. Like, did it worry you what you saw, or do you feel that stuff will all come right very, very quickly when New Zealand come into town?
You can... Hello?
Yeah, sorry, we lost you there, Eddie.
Sorry.
Yeah, shoot ahead there.
You can look at it a couple of ways. One is people are saying, "Oh, it was a bad performance," or lackluster performance, and it'll really focus us for next week. But I don't know anyone was going on Friday saying we should play lackluster tomorrow and use that as leverage to get a better performance against the All Blacks. I think they really should have played better than they did. The thing that worried me that wasn't much talk about is because Argentina had a very little ball, but we had 6 line breaks against us in our defence, Yeah. And I think they had only like 39% possession. They still broke us 6 times. We had 61% possession. We broke them once. So there are things that, like, if that's repeated at all against New Zealand, we're going to be in trouble. No, I don't think it will be repeated. I think certainly the intensity will come up. We'll iron out the issues. We'll fix the line out. Levy will, or Van der Fleer will come into the back row, give us better balance, and I think our backline will probably function better. But those things have to be fixed, and if they're not fixed, we could get a Tonkin, because the other worrying aspect of this is New Zealand won't be happy either with their win, and Twickenham, they won as well, playing pretty poorly, so they will want to come and set down a marker as well. So, like, it's not like New Zealand had a cakewalk in Twickenham and they're coming in, with kind of expectations of grandeur, and we can catch them on the bounce. I don't think we want to catch them on the bounce. I think they're coming and play all their games, so we're going to have to be locked and loaded. I expect we'll play better, but will better be good enough? I don't know. I still worry about our defence, because I think we're vulnerable. We look vulnerable defensively, and New Zealand of all teams will punish us there. I think our line will be fine, our scrum will be fine, and I think we'll have to play with the ball a good bit and hold on to it, which we do very well when we win collisions. But you saw on the weekend when Argentina didn't allow us win collisions, we weren't able to get around them. We couldn't go through them, we couldn't go around them, and we did struggle to build pressure like we normally do. It was into the second half before we started to build any pressure. So they're difficult fixes. They're not easy fixes. The lineout's an easier fix. The back row's an easier fix. But our consistent defence through phases and our consistent attack through phases, we've got to find a way of making those work for us again, as we know they can.
Okay, interesting. Gareth Morrow on Facebook asks, do you guys think the referee will enforce penalties against high challenges so we don't end up with a farce like 2016? If he doesn't, should Ireland return in kind? I suspect it will be enforced, although on the theme of the referee Wayne Barnes, that did come up with Johnny Sexton today. Sexton was asked specifically if he reckons Barnes will apply all the laws to New Zealand.
I'm not sure. We pride ourselves on our discipline. We are coached to be as disciplined as we can be. We will look at a game, and after the game we will get not in trouble, but we'll be highlighted where we could have given away a penalty. So our discipline is probably on the list of importance up there, and we've come on the wrong side of Wayne Barnes in the past, so it's something we're going to have to look at even more so this week. Like, we try to play by the letter of the law, but for whatever reason in certain games we haven't got that right with him, so we need to really have a look at ourselves and see how we can be extra vigilant there. We can't worry about them because that's their problem, but from our point of view, we've been penalised a lot by him in the past, more so than any other ref, so we need to really be wary of our own discipline this week. So he sidestepped the question a little bit, saying we can't really worry about them. Wayne Barnes, Eddie, has the reputation of having some strange days.
Yeah, well, look, he's around a long time, but I think his Achilles heel, in my experience with him, has always been that if a game gets very frantic, he tends to lose control of it very easily, and he tends to get whistle happy to calm it down, and he can often be very harsh in his calls. So if the game turns into a very kind of one of these very fast-paced, very physical games, as it's probably likely to be, I think he could struggle. He seems to lose his composure. He's very good on the law. He understands the law very well. He's a barrister by trade, right. So he understands the law. But I think at times, certain games, he he gets a bit flustered, ironically, and he can be very whistle happy and make very harsh calls. And I think that could be a problem on Saturday if the game opens up and it's very frantic and there's a lot of physicality, and if there's an edge to it, then like it's a couple of late hits or something, and you know, these games can bubble right on the edge. I think it wouldn't be the best place for him to be. So it's about managing that, really. I think, and look, Ireland are probably thrown out there as well. Like, that message will get to him that we know that he penalises us more than any other referee. So, like, keep that in mind before you blow the whistle. It's a bit of a tactical flair there by Joe Schmidt to get that out there, you know, which is fair enough. It's what you do.
Rory, we've touched on the New Zealand line-out at the weekend. Just in general, England 15, New Zealand 16 was a cracking game. It's just a great watch from start to finish. Right from Ashton's try, we knew this could get interesting, and it stayed that right till the end. What jumped out at you about the game?
I think the physical levels of it, like the fact that England showed that you can beat New Zealand, that, you know, once again, that this New Zealand team is not the team of old, that they are human, that they have vulnerabilities, that if you put them under enough pressure, they will make enough mistakes to let you into the game. England should have won it. England, you know, forget about the disallowed try. They had a attacking set deep in New Zealand territory, and Courtney Lawes threw an offload that I think only Courtney Lawes knows what he was doing. They also got into a position, they had their foot on New Zealand's throats, and they never scored again. They went before half time, they conceded the try. That was a bit of a sucker punch, but the last thing you want to do is kick the ball out in the full, then concede a scrum penalty. You know, they made mistakes that Ireland at their best don't make, I think, and that's the difference possibly between Ireland and England right now. I think if New Zealand plays badly against Ireland can definitely beat them, although the Murray thing is a big factor. But it was a compelling match. It was a brilliant match. It showed how dangerous New Zealand are, but it also showed that they're a danger to themselves sometimes at the moment. Okay,
I mean, it was pretty extraordinary anyway. So 15-0 up, and the first 38 minutes, you know, I mean, I almost laughed. How have they gone in 15-10? They just find ways of doing things. We saw Bowden Barrett drop goal as well. I think we should mention that in passing. You know, that is personal growth. Like, in terms of how England caused them problems, Eddie, certainly Stuart Barnes was making the argument throughout that first half, I guess best exemplified by the Chris Ashton try, that there was just lots of one-off runners and just truck it up the middle and suck New Zealand in and then try and go wide, and it certainly seemed to pay dividends initially, though New Zealand did keep England scoreless from the 24th minute. So give us your take on that.
Well, I think we have to remember as well that the weather was appalling. It was just chucking down rain. So, like, the ball was almost a liability at times to try and hold on to it. So I was really impressed with how New Zealand, I thought in the first half they played a wet weather game, New Zealand, and they were 15-0 down, and then they started holding on to the ball and taking a few risks, and it paid dividends. But it was a very difficult day. I think it was a dry day. I think they probably would have won more comfortably. It's kind of suited England. Now, don't doubt England brought their physicality and they got a really good start to the game, but after that, like, it was kind of just putting their finger in the dam. And I think that, like, New Zealand, they can be good playing in the wet, and it rains in New Zealand, but I think the dry ball and the dry surface suits them because of their skill set. So it didn't help them that the weather wasn't particularly good. But having said that, the one thing that New Zealand are vulnerable in is their defensive system is not the greatest defensive system in the world. They might have the greatest attacking system, but they tend to give up about 20 points a game, and even giving up 15 points on a wet day like that's a lot. So, like, they tend to outscore the opposition, but we saw them, you know, when Ireland almost beat them a few years ago in Aviva Stadium, that their defence in the first half was appalling. They were all over the shop, and they can get picked off, and they tend to play a very flexible individual style defence where guys make individual decisions, and they often get caught out or they miss tackles. So it's probably the weakest part of our game, ironically, is their defence, but so if you're scoring 30 or 40 points a game, it isn't a major issue. But if Ireland defend very well on the weekend and keep them under 20 points, then you're in the game big time. But I think because they will give up probably 15 or 20 points. But I think that's the one area that we kind of overestimate them, and that their defence isn't as good as we think. And I suppose, to be honest, this is not the best New Zealand team. The last World Cup New Zealand team was a better team. And they're still fiddling around with their midfield. He's not sure where his midfield is. Although I think Crotty coming in makes it a better midfield than with Sonny Bill Williams in it. And I think Mackenzie at full back isn't a proven product, even though he's the guy that's played the most. I don't know, he's a natural full back. He's very small. You could see on Saturday Joe Schmidt trying to set up some mismatches if he's there with David Stockdale, because it's a no contest, you know. And also,
was Mackenzie wrong to take a chance for the Ashton try? He went on the cover and then realised he'd left nobody at home and Ashton was in. Like, was he shouldn't have went, or was he entitled to make a move?
Well, I think they were in trouble anyway because they were way too narrow. Like they left themselves with too much to do. But again, I think that's one of the problems with their defence is that they let players make individual decisions like that, and it affects everyone around them.
Right.
So I would have thought that he would have been better off to hold his water a bit, but like he made his decision to go, and they do that, and that's where they're vulnerable. So I just think that's one part of their game that we give them too much credit for. That we should be more confident scoring points against them. By holding on to the ball and playing with them, and you can get them. But I think Mackenzie is not the natural fullback either. He's he's a fantastic broken runner. He's very evasive. He's a good footballer, but I'm not sure if his best place is fullback because often he can run himself into trouble, and he's not big enough under high balls. Like he's not going to climb bigger guys. And I think that's a problem for them. But they don't have an obvious replacement. So their midfield and their full back areas are kind of where they're not sorted out yet. And I still don't think it's the best New Zealand team we've seen. I think the last World Cup team was a better team. Okay,
I know you have to run, so then quickly as you like, I'll talk to Rory afterwards for a few minutes. The Courtney Lawes offside Underhill try, where are you in that?
Yeah, unfortunately for England he was offside. He was well offside. There's no question about it. It was kind of a gut-wrenching way to lose the game because in fairness they did finish it out well, but yeah, there's no question he was if you look at the clip again, the two English pillars are behind the ruck and he's a good half yard in front of both pillars, so it was offside, and if he wasn't offside he probably wouldn't have blocked it, so there you go. Okay, and New Zealand Ireland, who's going to win? Well, I still think we can do it, but we'd have to play particularly out of our skins. I think there's a vulnerability about them, and they know it, which is even better for everybody else. Yeah. So I think we've a shot here, but it means we need to get everything right. And I'd be a little worried that they also want to have a big performance. We're not going to catch them cold. I think that's the other side of it. But if we did it in under those circumstances, it would be a phenomenal achievement. Okay, Eddie, thanks so much. I know you're under pressure there. Thanks a million. Thanks, Joe. That's Eddie O'Sullivan there. So, actually, Johnny Sexton seemed to be in good form today. So he was asked this question at one point. You know, Eddie Jones a couple of weeks ago when he was talking about something completely different, somehow dragged Johnny Sexton into the conversation. So invariably that was put to Sexton. And Johnny, Eddie Jones said last week he intimated that you get preferential treatment from referees. Now, your relationship with referees ultimately is important. So is that kind of stuff just annoying? I was trying to guess who's going to ask that question today. I got it wrong. Look, I don't know how I was mentioned at an England New Zealand press conference. So yeah, that still baffles me. But I didn't think we were playing England till February. That's a good answer. He wouldn't tell us afterwards either. They say Rory O'Connor was the favourite in his mind. He reckoned O'Connor. I'd like to see the bet. I'd like to see the bet. Yeah. He seemed to be in good, relaxed form. He didn't have his best game on Saturday. I mean, he was part of a general malaise, which was kind of infecting everybody. I know they reviewed it today, but I think if they go out and have an absolute howler this week and get hammered, then we'll all go back to this Argentina game and say the signs were there. Yes, but I'm kind of happy to brush past it as a kind of a just get it out of the way and win. He was off his game. He wasn't particularly great in Toulouse either a couple of weeks ago, so maybe there is a little bit of a form line, but he's just such a quality player who delivers on, like before that Toulouse game he was in unbelievable form and he was sparkling, so I think he knows that he needs to bring his best on Saturday, and he has beaten them twice before. He's drawn with them. You know, he's played against them I think 9 times beginning in 2010. You know, I think he was there in the 60-0. He's been through the mill with them. He knows that they're still the high watermark of his career, and he wants to win that World Player of the Year award. I don't know if the votes are already in, but certainly it wouldn't do him any harm to kind of have a big game on Saturday. And he is a big game player. I think he'll be fine. Yeah, Eddie Jones has steadied the ship a little bit after a disastrous feeling, a couple of months ago in South Africa. It was looking incredibly grim. A little bit. They're kind of still scratching around for a team. I mean, Chris Ashton comes in and he's brilliant, and you're like, well, you should have picked him before. Even I know they don't pick players in France, but they had a chance before he went to France. So they looked like Ireland in 2013. You know, that they had that kind of it was a white knuckle ride to a win, and it didn't work out for them. A bit like Ireland in 2013. I'm not sure if they're as far down the line as Ireland, but they've got such good talented players. Like Mark Wilson's come in from Newcastle at number 8. He's probably their 4th choice number 8, 3rd choice number 8, and he's excellent. Underhill's a guy who was unbelievable. He's brilliant. You know, he's probably
third, fourth choice, 7. You know, they've just got players. They've got so many players to deal with. It's a challenge for any coach to find the best ones, but they look like they're stumbling upon a team slowly but surely, and they're first up in the Six Nations, and I guess we'll start talking about that after this weekend, and that's going to be some, you know, that's not a bad way to finish or to follow this one, you know.
No, for sure, at the Aviva Stadium as well. So I guess final thoughts, the rhythm of how this week's going to play out and what you're expecting on Saturday. So we'll hear from Joe Schmidt on Thursday.
Yeah, Hansen and Joe will be up on Thursday, naming their teams. There's a bit of speculation about the team. You know, Kearney probably comes in, Levy comes in. I would think Toner comes in.
Sorry, just briefly on that. Like, what did you make of Larmour? I mean, are you looking at Larmour saying, oh, well, he's not going to be risked at full back this side of a World Cup cycle? I mean, was it that appalling, or was it just
no, it's not appalling.
Difficult?
Appalling. No, you're looking at putting them in against the best team in the world, and I don't think you can. I'm not saying you don't think you can do that, but you've got a safer option, a more experienced option. You go for that. But he did a lot of things right.
That was my sense.
He ball in hand. He got turned over the first time he went into contact, but in fairness, Ian Henderson missed the ruck.
Yeah. He can kick. I mean, we saw his kicking from hand was good.
Every time he gets the ball, he looks dangerous, even when he's got no space. But he did let that ball bounce in his own over his own end line. You know, they went after him a little bit, and he struggled a little bit. But that's part of the growth that he's going to get. I think he'll be in the 23 this weekend. I think he'll be number 23.
Right.
And I don't think his time is long coming. But I think they might just put him on the wing at the start. I think fullback, there's so much responsibility in Joe Schmidt's system. They often leave Kearney back there on his own.
Yes.
You know, covering the whole backfield, and Kearney just appears.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, oh, there's boring Rob Kearney, but like, there's a reason he appears there, you know. And this weekend, I think I didn't agree with Eddie. I think Ben Smith will probably drop back to 15 for New Zealand, and they'll find someone else to go on the wing. And I think Kearney will be there because they're the two best 15s in the squad. And this is a game, although the forecast is pretty positive right now, a long way to go. I think the kicking game will be just below the line out in terms of importance on Saturday.
And Mackenzie out of the side, even for all the glorious running and sidestepping.
Mackenzie's the perfect 23. You bring him on with half an hour to go, like Bowden. See, they've replaced Bowden Barrett's moved into the team. They need someone to come off the bench and do what Bowden used to do.
Yeah.
So they just have a system. They've replaced all these players. They're not as good as they were, but they're still trying to use the same template. And you put Mackenzie on your bench, he comes on against a tired defence.
Yeah.
You know, Ireland, I think, should use Joey Carberry somewhere similar, or Larmour, you know, come on and attack them when they're getting tired.
Yeah.
And he's so good at it. We've seen it so many times. Teams have them on the rack, and suddenly Mackenzie comes on and he scores tries.
Well, England maybe had 2 to 3 iffy kicks, which were not long enough and not short enough, and Mackenzie created havoc both times. You know, even there was a ball in the air that was kicked, and Stuart Barnes was already saying, we're in trouble here.
Yeah.
And it was going to Mackenzie.
And Barrett used to do that off the bench for them, and now, like, he did it in the World Cup final. So, you know, that's the role they see Mackenzie. They just know they have to give him a bit of experience at 15. Obviously, you're giving him experience at Twickenham. It's a big deal. Yeah. They may just stick with him just to give him an experience at Dublin, because then they might need him at the World Cup if Ben Smith's injury issues come back to haunt him. But
so I interrupted you there. You touched on full-back, and you were angling towards what's going to happen on Saturday.
So I think there's 4 changes. Just this is me speculating.
Sure.
4 changes. I think Kearney comes into the team, Ringrose comes into the team. Addison did very well, but I think Ringrose is the better 13 right now. I think Levy comes into the team for the injured Sean O'Brien, and I think Toner comes into the team for the reasons we've already outlined. And I think when they played really badly against Australia in 2013, a week before they played the All Blacks, he only made 3 changes, and they were all in the backs. And I think he'd be loath to make any more than 4 to his team, because I think he had a plan going into these games. Obviously, injuries disrupted it. O'Brien was definitely going to play against the All Blacks, I think.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, if he wanted to bring in Luke McGrath, he might just hold back because he's made so many other changes already. If he wanted to bring, you know, he's hardly going to change Rory Best at this stage.
Yeah. Everyone
else probably did enough. Bundyaki was very good. A couple of players did play well. Stockdale and Earls in the wing looked dangerous. You know, it wasn't all bad. So I think 4 changes make sense, and then the bench will be interesting to watch. But he said it seemed like he left some of the selections till the last minute last week. I'm not sure if he'll do that this week, but it's an interesting one.
Okay. This is a hell of a week. I mean,
that's brilliant. It's the best week of the year.
The whole country's gearing up for this.
Yeah, even putting Johnny up on a Monday just keeps the whole thing going. You know, it's just been it's going to be great all the way to Saturday, and then biggest game of the year.
Absolutely. Rory O'Connor of the Irish Independent will be reading your bits and pieces across the week. Thanks so much for popping in. Short break, and we're back.
Monday Night Rugby on Off the Ball
with Eir Sport. Watch live Pro 14 action on Eir Sport this season. Visit eirsport.ie.